Donna Schwartz here from the Everything Saxophone Podcast. I am so pleased and honored to have Denis DiBlasio on the show today. I am so happy to have you on here, Denis.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm actually thrilled that you asked me to do this. This is great.
Well, I've seen a lot of your videos on YouTube. I've known about you, and we were actually talking beforehand where I had gotten my certification in music learning theory, 2-week certification. It was a summer, I think in 2003 or 4 at Rowan University, and we have that connection because you're the director of jazz studies there.
Yeah.
And you've been the director of jazz studies since 2010, was it?
Oh no. I've been there for 35 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I'm a fixture. I'm in the DNA of the concrete of that place. I've been there for 89 maybe. 89 part-time, and then I became head of the thing. Yeah, about that long. And that's a whole journey. That's a whole thing. The teaching and how I viewed it and how it changed and all of that. Yeah. That was the one thing that I didn't plan on. Always teaching here and there. Here's a lesson, but a full-time teaching thing at a school was never on my radar. I wanted to travel and I wanted to play. And I wasn't crazy. I wasn't that interested in like real doubling. Like I loved improvising on the sax, Sonny Rollins, Johnny Griffin. And I saw all these guys live. And then I saw Roland Kirk, Yusef Lateef, Moody, Hubert Laws on flute. When I saw that made me want to play flute, the way they play jazz on flute. But as far as I started on clarinet, but that's where I wanted to do that. I wanted to write. I wanted to arrange. When I heard a big band, I just thought, wow, I heard Basie live. And I'm trying to edit myself. Done. Every time I say something, there's 3 things that I could branch off on, and I'm trying to edit myself when I talk. You're gonna have to reel me in. But it's my interest lied in like improvising and writing when I heard big band, and then when I saw and heard Thad's band, because we would go up to the Vanguard. There's only like an hour and a half from there. We would go up on Monday. And we were playing those charts for the Consummation album. We played Tiptoe, Fingers, all that stuff. And then you go up and you see the guys play with Thad conducting, and Mel and Eddie Daniels and Jerome Richardson and Snooky. I mean, all the original guys in there before it was, it wasn't the Vanguard band. It was Thad and Mel's band. And Pepper Adams is sitting behind that column, and it was just like, oh, but when I heard Thad, it was a couple people I had heard that just changed my life. Boom, like that. It was like an exit off the turnpike, Well, we're going over here. And Thad was one of them. And that made me want to write. So to me, the real doublers or triplers were so serious and great at it. I mean, you look at it and it's, like Eddie Daniels. To me, that was like somebody who at that level was playing sax, flute, and clarinet almost better than almost any other person who just played clarinet. That when I saw that as doubling, I thought, wow, that's deep, heavy doubling. And even though I doubled somewhat, my interest was never in, I bought the oboes, I had all the flutes, and I just always went towards, I wanted to write a big band chart. How do you do that? So my interest was really kind of an improvisation and the writing end of things. That's what really got me going. And all my other woodwind friends were doing the doubling thing, which was, it all has its own challenges, but I was caught by the writing bug.
When did you, so 2 things with this. When did you get started with improvisation? And you know what? Here's what I'd like to do, actually. Let's go all the way back. When did you actually start, playing instruments and stuff like that? And, is your family, I kind of know the answer, but is your family musical, and did they influence you?
Well, they influenced me, yeah. But no, my family wasn't musical in the sense that anyone played anything. My family was Italian-American family. My mom was a cook full-time. Came from a big family. She always cooked in my high school. She was the head cook. She saw my teachers every day. Never went to a meeting because every day was like a meeting. I couldn't get away with anything. And she was the head cook. Then she became head cook from a hospital, Lady Lord's Hospital, Camden, New Jersey. She was the head cook, because she always could cook for a lot of people. My dad worked in the gas company where they would put gas lines in the developments. That's what, so, and but they loved music. They may have loved music more than I loved it. I just had it as a career, but they would actually come home. And this is what I remember about music. For me, I have a whole thing about this because I've talked to, maybe you've heard it before because I may have said it in another interview or something, but they would come home and they would put music on and the music changed the mood. I mean, it worked like it was a tonic. It wasn't just let's put music on. Nobody's analyzing it. Oh, 5-chord, 4-chord. Oh, it went Lydian. I mean, nobody's doing that. They put it on, and my mom was fine. She was cooking, and it had, you could smell the house smell. You could hear she liked Mario Lanza and Louis Prima, and my dad loved big band, and he liked jazz, and it was on. So to me, music and this good vibe and the family and this whole thing, it all became this like one thing. And I remember being a little kid watching my dad talk to the TV. I think it was Duke's band or Count Basie's band. I mean, I was too young to even know. But the band's playing, black and white TV set, console on the floor. And my dad came home from work. He's sitting on the chair and he's looking at the TV and he's going, yeah, go, get it. Like he's talking to the TV. And the band's like, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. My dad's like, yeah, get it. So I'm looking at my dad. I'm looking at the TV. It sounds great. It looks cool. Dad's having fun. Mom's cooking something great. And it was all this vibe. And then my mom and dad would kind of dance for a couple of minutes. And they're both in their work clothes. And I remember watching this, hearing the music. So to me, music was like a part of that. It wasn't like I'm going to be in high school to win an award at a competition. It was more of a thing. So yeah, they influenced me like that. And then there was a music store close by and they had an alto saxophone in the window, and when the light would shine off it glittered, and it had the Indian had a nickel where the thumb goes. So this guy, who whatever he did, he put this nickel on it, and I looked at it and I thought, wow, that looks cool. It's shiny. It's like what the guys played on TV that my dad liked, and it's got a nickel on it. And I want to play that because I want a nickel. I want the one with a nickel on it. And my mom went in, and the guy who ran the store, Frank Mazuka, he said a good thing to do would be start on clarinet. And I think I was 6 or 7, because it's easier to go to saxophone. And he's right, which really helped me because when I did double, I could play clarinet, but I just couldn't wait to get my hands on a saxophone. But we did what he said, and I took the lessons. And I think because I would sit for a long time by myself and practice the stuff, or just noodle, or do whatever I did, my mother would be upstairs and she could hear me downstairs. And it was, okay, I know where he is. He's safe, because we used to live by a highway in a wooded area. I'd go back there, play with my friends, and she figured I'm going to get hit by a truck or something. So if I can keep this kid alive by having him play clarinet, I'm going to... This kid's going to get lessons, because once he's 17, I don't care what he does, but man, he's driving me nuts. So it was just something I like. It was just a thing. It was like sports. It was just something that was fun. And I had a great teacher who, he kind of held my feet to the fire as much as you can with a 7 and 8-year-old. But I did see, as I got better, it became more fun. And he was a great teacher that way. It wasn't just get better, and they whipped you. And there were times I was young, and maybe I didn't practice for a while, and then I went back to it. And my parents they kind of let me have it. I didn't have a parent that was like, hey, go practice. Hey, it was mine to explore and experiment. In other words, I had unstructured play with this music that I could kind of make it my own, and I could get a relationship with it. And then my teacher wrote out, and I still have it, wrote out the F blues scale. And you play these notes in any order you want, because I was listening to records. I didn't know what was going on, but Sonny Stitt, Gene Ammons, all these guys that were playing their regular tunes, medium swing. I would just honk along. I don't know what. It must have sounded terrible. It must sound like Varese and Bossa Nova. Who knows what was going on? But I was all in about it. And my parents would take me to see people. In Philly, there's a thing called the Man Music Center. It was all bassy with Judy Garland. I saw Judy Garland. All I remember is somebody was in a red dress, and but I just thought it was always fun. It was always joyous. I saw Cannonball. Cannonball was life changing. Just to hear that live, are you kidding? So to me, it was always this, wow, this is fun. This is a good thing. And he gave me that blues scale. And he said, if you start and end on F a lot and use F a lot, you'll hear what it's about. And that was it. And I went nuts with that blues scale. I just played that. I played it forever. I didn't know anything about what I was doing. And to the point where I played that F blues scale over every tune. Doesn't matter what the key is. Hey, I'm not interested in any damn key. I'm playing this F blues scale over everything, you know. So when I found out there were other keys, I was upset. But I was left to really like have fun with it, you know. So that kind of got me started. And I actually listened a lot, took a lot of things off of records. But the understanding of the real, like to crack the code of what these people are doing, that happened later on. I guess some of those Jamey Aebersold books, I used to teach at Jamey's camps for like 15 years. That's a whole other thing. But, you know, the scale fits the chord thing, that's one of many ways to go about, you know, teaching this thing. But that kind of made sense. But when I went to graduate school, believe it or not, in Miami, University of Miami in Florida, they had a system. They showed you how all the systems work. I understood everything. When Liebman does this, what's he doing? You know, what happens when Mike's playing the record, he would come down. What the heck? What's he doing? Oh, it's all melodic minor. What? You know, and then you would hear it. You know, of course, he just played it like better than anybody on the planet. But they were cracking the code for me. And I was so ready for that because I listened to so much stuff, just wondering, what is it? How is it? This and that and the other thing. So, I mean, I'm jumping ahead, but that's kind of the lineage. I was in all the bands, high school bands, college bands, all that business. You know, I did it all. And everything was from a record. Everything was from recording. Just seeing people live, you know, Dexter live. I can't tell you how many times Sonny Rollins. Sonny was another person who, like, a couple of times I saw life changing. Life was different after I saw him play a couple of things. It was, man, he was always good, but this wasn't good. This was like sent from heaven or something. This was sent from above to alter your life kind of thing. And it wasn't, I don't know. It wasn't, there was just something about him. I saw him and he did Mr. PC for 20 minutes, soloing, no tricks, no acrobatics, no squealing, no honking, no all thematic, all stuff you could listen to and hang on.
Yeah.
And somebody will play 20 minutes and you can't not listen to what's going on because the thematic stuff is so strong. And then the placers on their feet, and I'm looking around, they look like blue collar plumbers and people, and the way he connected, and we was playing Mr. PC for 20 minutes. I could have listened another 20 hours, and I was like, what is that? Where's he coming from? It was like more and more. It was just like exploding. It was interesting. And so I had a couple of those moments, and those are enough to make you, you know, charge you up, especially if, you know, you're kind of left alone to mess. I don't know. You have to tell me to stop, Donna.
No. This is so, no, really seriously, this is so fascinating because all the people that, first of all, the theme right over here is that you did all this listening and it wasn't like forced listening. It was, you're seeing your parents listening, you're seeing them showing their love to each other, you're seeing the mood that's coming from the music. And it's the emotion, and that's what you're connecting with, and that's what's driven you. And then you're listening, and you're getting curious about things, and you're playing the clarinet. You're getting better, and as you know, everybody, when you practice more, you get better, and then you can do more things, and you get better at that. And it's a lot more enjoyable. Your teachers gave you the freedom. I think unstructured play. They gave you this freedom to do these types of things. And the thing though is that you did all this listening. You didn't slap a label on it until later on, until you went to colleges and all that kind of thing, when then they explained, this is what Brecker's doing, this is what Liebman's doing. And then it clicked because you had that rich history of listening.
Yeah. That's which is one of the challenges in teaching now, because we can teach the code. It's in books, you know, some unbelievable great books. If you're ready for the book, it's almost like we're kind of entering it through the back door somewhat. You can tell somebody these are the notes of the chord. All right, well, how do you construct something? How do you make a melody? Well, you got to study how people do it. You want to build a house, you have to look at houses, right? You want to be a cook, you got to try cooking things. You mess it up and you come back and you do it again. And so because everything's so codified, you hear people saying, like, a lot of people sound the same because they all learn the same, and that could be good up to a point. But I'm noticing, for me, when I teach, I may be teaching a culture that doesn't have all the background that I have. Well, I might not. I am teaching a culture that doesn't come to. When I came to college, I knew all the Thad stuff. I just didn't know what they were doing. But I knew what tiptoe sounded like. I mean, I could sing that stuff in my sleep. However, I didn't know that it was all what it was. And now I find myself, I have to be somewhat of a salesman. And there's a way to sell it too, also, to these students. But what I'm trying to do with these students, I find out that if they all have to have a solo that they can transcribe by the end of the semester from memory. And I try and pick something that's doable for their technique. So if you play Paul, let's say if you play alto and you've never done this, I just give them a Paul Desmond solo. Okay. They'll pick Cannibal because they think it's hip. And I said, maybe we should do Paul Desmond first. And no, I want Cannonball. All right, go ahead, knock yourself out. See you next week. So they come next week. I hate Cannonball. You don't hate Cannonball. Your chops aren't ready yet. I have to let you beat yourself up for a week before you listen to me. Okay, knock yourself out. Then when the week comes back, I'll give him Paul Desmond. It was ba-booty, 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 almost like Being in Love. Okay. I think it's him and Chet Baker. And because he's so available, you don't have to play a lot of notes to be swinging and have a great sound, have a great feel. So the student came in, he had like a chorus and a half done in 1 week. Guess what? He loves Paul Desmond now. Paul Desmond's great. Paul Desmond. He loves Paul Desmond, but it's because he could copy Paul Desmond. So what I do is I have a list of players that are first-time transcriptions, like certain Dexter Gordon solos, Jerry Mulligan for Barry. Don't give a Barry player pepper or Nick Vignola. You're going to get hurt, So my whole thing is I'm trying to get them to like someone. I want them to have like a love affair with somebody. So as soon as they like that person or they feel they can copy that, that's my doorway in. From there, I can do other things. Talk about 2/5s. I mean, the theory you can talk endlessly about, but if you can't shape it into like how Dexter might or Paul Desmond might, or if you can't in your head kind of feel like you're imitating a way that somebody you like might do that, if that makes sense. You're not going to do it exactly, but if you could kind of Paul Desmond your way around something, then you're working from a concept of hearing somebody, and that's really important. And that's the thing that takes a lot of time to teach, because it takes a long time to marinate. And that's one of the things I find myself, like right off the bat, the semester has started. Within the next week and a half, everybody's going to have their solo figured out who it is. And we spot check it every like 2 weeks, get it down. The sooner they get it down, the sooner when it comes December, they may start to sound like somebody who knows how to phrase. That's what's kind of missing. But if you listen a lot and you don't know anything about theory, that's easy. That's easy.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole, that's everything that you're saying. And it sounds like what you're doing is you're giving these younger people that are coming into college right now where, the culture is different. We are on demand. Everything's on demand, where, growing up, even in my generation, you had to work for it. You had to find these things. But now everything's on demand, and it's not necessarily the stuff that's on demand they're not exposed to the jazz masters that you were exposed to, Oh,
yeah, right. Yeah. No.
So it's finding that, but what you're doing is, and I love what you said this too, you're trying to let them find somebody. You're giving them like basically kind of like a list in a sense of like, good people to transcribe. Some people like, no, I want to do this person. Then they come to realize, in order to get there, I really need to do this person first and become that person when they're transcribing them, so they can understand, more what's going on. And so that when they do the next person, it'll get a little easier, but they'll see the different perspective from there.
Yeah, yeah. It's important that I've seen. I mean, you can write, and a lot of educators do. You can write all this stuff on paper, and if you read it, it looks like it's a good idea until you humanize it,
Yeah.
and then you see what works and what doesn't. And I'll do this, I'll do that, and I'll give them this, and this is the basic. Yeah, yeah. Until they start learning, and you realize, I don't care about that. How do I connect with this person? How do I get them to, So the transcription of actually liking someone, and there's specific. I just can't say Dexter. You have to find the right Dexter, but sometimes Dexter can lay back so much they don't even know what's going on. Or you can there's some really beautiful Sonny solos that you could do, Sonny Rollins, and then there's some stuff Sonny that you can't even touch. But so I know specifically what would, just to get them up and going, because I want them to feel good about it. Because look, nobody pulls a gun on you to play this stuff. You do this because you love it. I mean, there's something that's driving you because you love it, and it's so anyway. So it's really it's interesting, but it's also important to me that at some point quickly they get a piece of it. They start to feel that they're moving forward. A lot of them don't know how to practice. They try and get their reach exceeds, like what they're able to actually do. So like do little bits, get little bits and chunks. Try and end your practicing on a win. Like try and, before you put the horn away, make sure you feel good about what you did. Maybe you do one thing you haven't done before. That's it. When you sit down to practice, this one kid came in, he goes, I do 2 minutes on this and 3 minutes on sound, then chromatics for this. And wow, I said, it's like a cookie sheet, it's real wide, but it's no depth. And when you're finished, all you've done is noodle in a bunch of things. Let's just do one thing, just 1, 3, 5, the chords to blues. That's it. Just do that much, and then if you have something that you've done, it causes a momentum. But if they don't know to practice just one thing, then they can get lost in this maze, And so there's a lot to liking it. It's not just I listen and I like it, but then to be driven to practice it, they have to have a vested interest, which is because for me, I loved it. It's about mom and dad and food. That's for me. It was easy, but I can't expect that for these guys that are coming in now. I have to try and throw everything I know at them, and that was. I want to bounce around if that's okay. I mean,
that's fine.
Okay. So Jamey Aebersold, he has these jazz camps in the summer, all improvisation, no big band. He was one of the first, just that. Which means if you're going to have 60 groups, you have to hire 60 faculty. So it's a camp that has a lot of faculty in it. I did it for about 15 years. And David Baker, great guy, Dan Hurley. I mean, the guys who should be on the Mount Rushmore of jazz education.
Yeah.
Are these people. And David Baker, he's 25 minutes worth of stories, this guy. But I'm watching how everybody's teaching this. And I was like, wow, I realized everybody teaches this stuff. Almost everybody, I guess, based on how they first understood it themselves. So for me, the thing that cracked the harmony code when I looked at a chord was the chord scale thing, right? You see that all over the place. When I saw that, I was like, oh, yeah, I can use all these notes. When I see that, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if it's a chord, is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Chord, scale, chord, right? That, and once I was like, oh, so that's all it is. Well, not really, but that's all it was for me. And that opened things up for me. So I taught it a lot. So now I'm teaching these Jamey camps, and I'm watching Bobby Shue, Pat LaBarbera. I'm watching who's somebody you may want to know. Pat LaBarbera. He played with Elvin Jones. Oh my God, Pat's great. But all these great players are all teaching. So I had an opportunity to walk around and I could walk in any room I wanted. And I was looking at how everybody taught. One person's teaching scale fits the chord. All right. Another person's teaching. I listened and I copied some licks that somebody played in a solo. I put them in all keys. And I let my ear drive me. Whoa, okay, that's not scale fits the chord. If you think that scale fits the chord works, and then you look at a Charlie Parker solo, you see all those chromatics, you think, well, where's the scale fits the chord here? Anyway, and then Bobby Shue, great trumpet player, he says, I don't do any of that. I think of a pathway through the tune, like lead line. So if you have G minor, C7, F, he's thinking G minor 7 goes to 3, it goes to E. He's thinking of a pathway that's linear because trumpet players have to think like this. They don't want to think up and down the chord. So they're very linear. So, whoa, that's a whole other way. So I must have seen 8, 9 different ways that people taught improv, and everybody sounds great. So I'm thinking, well, what's the commonality? There isn't one way to teach this stuff. The commonality is, one, everybody listens to the music so they can sound great. The second thing is they all can play their instrument. Whether you learn classical first or you just learn scales and chords, you have your instrument down. And the third thing is they're all applying the stuff to a song. They're just not improvising. They're improvising to, Softly as in the Morning Sunrise, or you name it, No Greater Love, name the tune, all the stuff. That's the only thing that's common. They listen to it, they can play their instrument, and they're putting all the stuff to a tune. Outside of that, everyone was different. So for me, I used to make a list of all these different approaches, and I have it up on my wall. It's like 60 different approaches that help me when I teach, because if I say, well, here's one guy's a pentatonic guy, pentatonic minor chord, played off the flat 3. Oh, look, okay, for some, they love that. For others, won't work. Bebop scale. One student loved the bebop scale. After I tried 3 other techniques, he grabbed it, he loved it, he understood it, he loves that. So for me, I'm like throwing everything out there to see what takes. All of them work. But when you're teaching one-on-one, it's easy to give everybody the same thing. But when you have to psych out each student, that's exhausting. But it's also, everybody's on a different channel. Everybody learns different. Everybody learns differently. So that was big for me to realize that, like, the middle of it is the axle of one of those big wagon wheels with all the spokes. The all different ways to get to the same spot. And that's one of the things that. So in my books that I have a ton of these books over at school. I have all the techniques and things. There's the pentatonic book, there's the fourth book, there's the scale fits the chord, flipping triads, melodic minor. I mean, you just name the technique and how to play out, how to superimpose. It's all here. What are you into? I feel like I'm walking around like Home Depot, or like we're walking through, like, pick something, and whatever you pick, we'll use that. And that's where I've come after teaching for like 35 years. I'm trying to really key in on where they're at, because they're in a completely different place. You have to turn them on to somebody, find a technique that makes them excited, and hope that they continue to, like, creep, so they feel like they're moving and they don't grab too much, because inevitably they're going to grab too much.
This is really fascinating. Just all the methods that you were referring to, and all the people that you had access to, that were your colleagues at the Jamey Aebersold camps and stuff like that. And as I also play trumpet too, so I could definitely relate to a lot of the things that you mentioned and all that kind of thing. But the 3 main things that everybody did: number 1, they listened; number 2, they could play their instrument; number 3, they are applying it to a song. It's not just something in the middle of the air and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. And one person is a pentatonic person, and one person is a fourthy person. And I think Eddie Caillet, Eddie?
I interviewed him for the podcast. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Eddie. Okay, so Eddie and I were really close when we both gone to graduate school at the same time. We used to hang out a lot. Eddie's a man. Eddie's another person who's like, it's like 5 guys in the world playing sax that way. Eddie was always unbelievable. But he was telling me when Mike came down to Miami, and it was like, Mike, what are you doing? I mean, what are you even doing? Because nobody knew. He's playing like moment's notice, and he was just ripping it apart. Just this it was. And Mike, did you ever meet Mike?
No.
Oh man, Mike was like the sweet. If you didn't know he played saxophone, you would think that he was, I don't know, just like some like nice guy. He was just. Then he started playing. You were like, what? Can you even do? You even allowed to do that on the horn? But so Mike, what do you do? And he goes, oh well, it all changed for me when they explained. I think John LaPorta, I forget, someone specific explained to him how the melodic minor scale worked, because all the modes of the major scale fit all these different chords. Well, all the modes of melodic minor also fit all the chords, but it adds a little more spice to each chord. So when you use it on a bright chord, it's real bright. When you use it for a dark dominant, it's real dark. And so whatever it does, it's like an intensifier, you know. So when Mike was using it, and he was using it so fluently, it was just like, whoa, you know, it was like a different sound, but he had it together and he was just flying on it. And plus he had another octave and a half on the horn. And it was just like, whoa, Mike. And, but that was one of the nice things about being in Miami, because you would hear that kind of stuff. But the thing is, that kind of thing was great for. I was going somewhere with it. I even got myself lost in the weeds here. What were we talking about?
No, we were talking about like teaching styles and stuff like that, and you were talking about Miami and how they crack the code. Yeah.
So different. So like that's one way. I mean, that's one way. You know, you spend your life on. You pick a technique, you spend your life on it. I mean, Chick Corea with pentatonics, McCoy, what he did with pentatonics, changed piano playing. You know, and so everything can be deep. You don't have to have a lot of things. You have to have. Liebman talked about this too one time, because you don't need to know a lot of things. You need to have a couple things really deep that you can work and create from, and have a lot of different things. He was talking about when Liebman was playing with Pete LaRocca, his drummer. He said we were playing and he did something on drums and it messed me up. I couldn't figure out what he was doing in it. And he did it again. It messed me up. And Liebman's great, because Lieb will give it up. He's not trying to impress you. He tells you all about it. I love him. And this is at a Jamey camp. And Lieb said, after the gig, I went to Pete. I said, Pete, you're doing something. I'm trying to figure out what it is. You're throwing me, man. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, no, you're not. No, it's not bad. I don't know what you're doing. And Pete says, well, I only know three things. And Dave said, what? He goes, I only know three things. I know this. He said, whatever it is. I don't know what. And then I know this. And the other thing I know is this. The pop, whatever it is. And he goes, that's it. Everything I do. And when Lee said the second thing he played was what he goes, oh, yeah, when I do that, boom, boom. And then Lehman was like, oh, every time he did it, he knew what was going on then. So it's not like when you hear somebody improvise, it's not like they practice everything they're playing. They kind of, Chris Potter says it too, you over practice everything so you can develop and create from the one or two things that you have that are deep. So that is another huge thing. And I was talking to Dave Baker about this, and he said, that scale fits the chord thing. When, we have it, it's the easy way to get people in the game. He said that really came about for arrangers, because if you see D Dorian and you see D minor, you need to make a voicing. If you know the chord scale, well, you can make a bass line, you can make a voicing, you can make a spread voicing, you can make clusters. If you know the information, so for arrangers, the chord scale, that's where it kind of started. And at some point, it wasn't like hijacked, but from what I was told, it became a way to teach improv. And because it was easy to understand, we all hopped on it, because that's Jamey's way. He puts it in his books, and then Jamey sends his books all over the world. And that's kind of what I think that may be one of the reasons why some people say we all sound the same. Because if you look at bebop players, be like Dizzy and all those, they'll like enclose, they'll hit everything from chromatics. They're looking at a note. When I get to this chord, I'm going to hit that note, and however I get to it is up to me. And it's not chord scale. So that's another thing I learned by the Jamey, listening to all these different people teach. And I realized, wow, if I'm going to teach, well, I didn't even think I was going to teach. I just started to realize that stuff when I got my teaching job. I realized, all right, I have a list of things here. Let me see which one little Johnny's going to gravitate to.
Let me ask this question. One, you said earlier that it wasn't in your deck of cards initially to go to teaching. You wanted to tour, you wanted to play. How did the teaching come about?
Oh, you really now? Oh, you did it now, Donna. No, I'm in Miami, graduate school, playing tenor, and I would go and sit in at this place every Monday night. And when Maynard Ferguson band, the guys who were in this band would go back to Miami, and I would meet them. Then they would go out, then they would come back, and they would meet. And Eric Traub is a great tenor player. He said, look, Maynard's looking for a bari player. Are you interested? going to happen in like 3 months. And I was finished grad school, which was great. And I said, well, yeah, okay. So I had to borrow Barry's sax. I made a tape. I sent it out. I got the gig. And playing Barry's a whole other story. But anyway, so I got the gig with Maynard. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to travel and play. So I'm on Maynard's band. I'm arranging because I was studying writing. I wrote a lot of charts for him that got recorded. It was great. I kind of knew what I was doing somewhat. Yet when you're writing for him, I mean, I never listened to the rocky stuff he was doing. I was always listening to his hard bop big band, like Message from Newport and like all this stuff. I was into the bop stuff that he did. But anyway, I was writing for him and I was playing, and that was really good. Then when I finally got off the band, it was about a 5-year thing, and that's a whole other ton of stories. I even posted a lot of them up online, and when he passed away, I posted a lot of stories up, stuff that happened. Because this guy did everything. He played with Dizzy, Clark, Clifford Brown, you name it. Bud Powell, he did everything. Played at Birdland, the original Birdland, and Paramount Studios out in L.A. He's on the Ten Commandments and the Alfred Hitchcock movies. He did everything. And he had a lot of stories, and he loved to tell them, and we loved to listen to them. But when I got off the road and I moved back home, I was going out doing a lot of clinics. Like somebody would have me fly out and I'd be soloing with their band. I'd be like doing a clinic, concert, that kind of thing. Or doing a thing at a festival, clinic, concert. I'm still doing that stuff. Post-COVID is starting to pick up again. You always wonder if it's like an actor. You wonder if anybody's ever going to call you again for something. Yeah. But it's starting to kind of pick up. But there was a chance to teach and earn some money teaching part-time at Temple University in Philly. School of the Arts in Philly, which just unfortunately just closed up. Yeah. That's a whole other thing. And it used to be Glassboro. Now it's Rowan, but it was Glassboro. So I was teaching adjunct at 3 of these places. And then, so each day, if you teach adjunct, you have one box for one school, another box in your back seat for the other school. You have a bag in your trunk for the other school, and you just drive into each school. And I was gigging and I was still flying out doing things, but I was adjuncting at 3 schools. And then Rowan, or then Glassboro, they had an opening for full time. So I figured, well, let me try it. And I got it. And that's when I started. And so at the time, I'm still like doing the Jamey camps, and I'm still going out playing a lot, and I'm starting to teach. And I went to play at University of Indiana with David Baker, Tom Spear, Dave Baker. And I knew Dave from the Jamey camp. So he asked me to come out to Indiana. And I'm playing out there. And Dave is one of these guys he's kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi type guy. He's fun. He's funny. He's great. He writes all these. He was a trombone player. He and J.J. Johnson were really good friends. He and Wes Montgomery, really good friends from Indianapolis. And he got in a car accident, and he destroyed his teeth. Bad accident. Couldn't play trombone anymore. So he figured he'd start to play piano. This is what he told me. But he said he got pretty good at it. But he said the guys playing piano were so good, he thought there was no way he was going to be able to crack into that, because the piano players were just, when you look at the top piano players, you're looking at Bill Evans, McCoy, Oscar. I mean, yeah, right. So he decided, let me try cello. So he actually started to train on cello, and then he could explain everything. So he started teaching at Indiana, and he would put out all these books. And my friends who would study with him, he said, you'd be in a lesson with Dave, the phone would ring. It'll be James Moody. And he said, hey, Moody, how are you? And he goes, you have that book on cycles? Yeah, I'll get it out to you. And I said, you would have these guys called Dave in the middle of your lesson, like wow. JJ's calling Dave for like, hey, you have that thing about tritone substitutions? Yeah, I have it. I'll send it to you. And that was JJ just called, So that's the way he was. So I go out there, and he really loved teaching. And when I was in Miami, I was ready as a student. I wanted what they had to teach. I mean, I was dying for it. I heard this stuff. I would hear Thad's band playing. What are those harmonies? What is all that? That real thick stuff. I mean, I don't know what it was. They'd explained it. So to me, I looked at some of the teachers I had, and I know my wife said this to me. She said, they were great because you were a great student ready for what they had. It's not just one way. I mean, you could study with Coltrane and be a lousy student and don't do anything that John will tell you to do. And so what? Right?
Right.
So I wanted so it cleared up so much stuff. All I had to do was practice it, but there weren't any questions anymore about how does harmony work and all this stuff happened. So now I'm teaching, and I'm realizing, boy, I have some really heavy teachers that were just as heavy in my mind as the players were heavy that I liked, so I go out, and Dave was one of them. Dave was probably the guy. So I go, all that just for this part. So I go out to play at Indiana, and Dave has me playing with his band, and he says, I'm playing some stuff with the band, and we go through this stuff. See, I told
The
you.
cat.
Yeah, that boy's good, buddy. Get a job, help out. Anyway, so what happens is, we're playing, and afterwards he says, "So how's everything going?" And at the time, when I wrote some stuff for Maynard, and Maynard would record it, publishers would put it out. Once publishers put your stuff out, because Maynard recorded it, then other publishers call it, and you start writing. So now I'm writing, stuff's getting published. I'm playing a lot, and I'm teaching. So, but I'm also, I wasn't thinking about it right. And we tend to do this, at least back then. Teaching was like poo-poo. You didn't teach. If you taught, that means you didn't make it in New York. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of at one point. Now I get a call like once a month from my friends up in the city. Hey, how do you get one of those gigs? Because everything's changed now. So I have this teaching gig full time. And I kind of adopted that. I wasn't even sure if I even believed it, but everybody else was thinking that way. So you're doing what everybody does. So Dave and I, we leave the rehearsal, and he says, "So how's everything going? How's it going?" I said, "Well, it's good. I'm making a lot of stuff published." He goes, "That's good. That's good." And I said, "Playing is good. I mean, I enjoy going around, soloing with these, bands." And I said, "It doesn't matter what level. I'm fine with whatever level. I'll help out. I get it. I know what everybody's dealing with." And then I said, "And I had this teaching gig, but that's, but I'm really playing a lot." Right? And Dave would look at you. His body would form like a question mark. He'd go like this. He goes, when that happened, I thought, uh-oh, here it comes. Here it comes. And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, I'm playing, and I'm writing, and the teaching, the teaching." And then he just looked at me, and I knew. I was like, "All right, take your beating. Here it comes." And he said, he goes, it really messed me up. Oh, Donna, this was like a life-turning thing. He goes, "Man, you could play, and you could teach, and you can write." He goes, "Why do you deny you're triply blessed?" And I was like, I was like, is that what he goes, "Man, you're blessed. You know how blessed you are? You don't love one more or less than the other. And this is part's coming out wrong because I don't remember it. But he said that you open your heart wide enough to embrace it all and let it expand." And I was like, "Oh man, I'm okay." I was like, wow. And I was like, why am I? And then I started thinking, why am I poo-pooing this teaching thing? Because it wasn't hip. But Dave loved teaching me. It was like serious stuff. And then it made me realize these guys in Miami, Dave Baker, these guys who teach, they teach at a level that like Sonny would play at if you kind of look at it as teaching. And that changed my whole thing around with teaching, because in some aspects, teaching's harder in the social aspect, because you could practice and play and be by yourself. And I mean, you're going to play with other people, and you can write. That's even more solitary. You can write something and mail it away and let it get published. But when you're teaching, you're dealing right away with something that you didn't. Somebody's going to walk in your door and you did not invite them in, and then you have to figure out how to crack this code of this person. And I was like, wow, that was. And I never forgot that, because why do you deny your blessings? Why do you deny you're triply blessed? I never even heard the word triply said before, But I was thinking, holy
Wow.
smoke. He was right. So I actually took me a while to kind of adjust to that because nobody was saying, hey, teaching is just as great as everything else.
That's right.
Guys, they weren't saying that. Yeah. So now I totally, I mean, I got it shortly after he said that, but that was pivotal. I had a couple things that just turned, we're going this way now, and life's never the same, There were a couple of those moments, but that was really, really big for me when it came to teaching. And there's a lot of great teachers. I mean, I can see them. You can see them, and
Yeah, but
especially now, it's
but
always changing.
it's that subconscious thing. I'm so glad you said this because I'm a child of the 80s, right? And I remember that subconscious thing where people, it wasn't even subconscious in a sense, but people like, oh yeah, no, those that can't teach. That
Yeah,
was the thing that we grew up with.
yeah.
And it's interesting. What changed it for me was seeing some of the guys that I went to Queens College, and some of the guys that
Okay.
went with me, like
Well,
Bob
Don,
Cassera.
are you in West Coast now? Where are
Yes,
you now? All
I'm
right.
in Los Angeles. So
Okay. All right. All right. So, but you're East Coast. Okay, I got it. All right. So good. I'm sorry. Yeah. Right.
yeah, yeah. So like Bob Cassera, great trombone player,
Mm-hmm.
played all over Manhattan, stuff like that. Charlie Clausen, great trumpet player, right? But what I noticed with Bob, because Bob is a great guy, Bob eventually went into teaching, and I'm thinking, whoa, Bob's a great player. He's getting a lot of gigs. Why is he going into teaching? That's like, we know that there's great teachers, but yet we're fed this garbage that those that can't teach, it's not as hip, right? And then my friend Bob went into teaching. I'm like, okay, that opened the door for me. And I'm like, if Bob is doing this, it's okay for me too. Do you know? I know that sounds weird, but
Oh
you know,
no. I mean, Dave made it by kind of spanking me a little bit. He made me just realize I couldn't even explain why I was even carrying that attitude around, other than all my friends were doing it. So I wanted to be kind of like my friends. It's all I had, empty, nothing. But and then when you're hanging out with him, you look at his wall and all his books, and he wrote them all out. Well, his wife Lida wrote everything out, but he's like, the pros were calling him to have him explain things. Barry Harris would, call him, and they were talking about the bebop scale, and it was holy smokes. But he was, when you're around somebody who is doing whatever they're doing, they could be construction worker, they could be a cook, they could be a teacher, but when they're committed and they're doing it for real, I mean, it is real for them. You kind of get this feeling like, whoa, we're not just hanging out. This isn't casual. This is like, this is in the, it's like when I was with Maynard, when I got with Maynard's band, the first rehearsal, they send you the book and I'm looking at it. And it just came out of Miami. And when you're in school, you're playing these charts that writers like throw everything they know into a chart. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything. Great. And then when you're out and you have to make a living on the road, somebody's not going to be a welder and then spend $25 to come in here like suscords planing up and down. You have to connect somehow. So anyway, I remember I
yeah.
got on the gig with Maynard. I'm looking at the book, and I'm thinking, there's nothing here that I can't play. When is the shoe going to drop that I'm not going to be able to, like? What is this? What makes Buddy's band Buddy, Woody, Count, Duke, Stan Kent? What makes these bands? Because that stuff was still happening it was over now, but that's where a lot of people got their opportunity to be heard. But I was thinking, what's the deal here? I'm looking at the music. It doesn't look that hard. I can kind of do this. So anyway, in walks Maynard. I didn't meet him yet, and we start with this opener. It's G blues, medium swing. Ba, ba, da, 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 and I'm playing my part. No, 8 notes. I can play 8 notes. I've seen 8 notes before. They go up and down. I'm cool. Ba, ba, da, 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 playing, and then he comes in. He goes, ba, da, I was like, what the hell was that? I was like, what? What? And I look over and I leaned over with the barium there. I tried to find out what pitch it was because it sounded like something I never heard. And it was his E above the staff. This guy pegged an E above the staff. Nothing else. No other notes. He just went, it was big. It was fat. It had a core. It had sizzle. It was happy. And it had this energy about it that you felt like it wanted to shoot up if you didn't contain it. And I was like, I never heard a note like that. It wasn't even that high. It was just above the staff, 3 ledger lines. And that thing had so much stuff on it. I was like, whoa, I never heard anybody play a note like that, where he put his complete life and body into it. Like he and Buddy Rich and Bill Evans and all these guys, they all played like they were going to die the next day. Like, this is the last time I'm going to play. I'm going to give it everything. And there's guys that teach like that. And there's people that play that way. Look at Coltrane, and it was, it's not that just they're playing, it's all their essence, everything's in it. And that's the stuff that I picked up on. I was like, oh my God, that's what this thing's about. It's about intent. It's about commitment. It's about when you play this, you give it everything. You give these eighth notes everything. Not like you're in high school playing, out of the root bank book. He's really. It changed me. That was another thing. I was like, oh my God, that's what this is. Oh, I get it. Every time I make any sound on the horn, put your whole life behind it, like it's like you'll never do it again. Is a different way to play than playing correct. You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, and that messed me up. I was like, wow, you can't put that in a book. You can only play. We used to see Buddy Rich. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I saw Bill Evans play a ballad just as heavy in that direction. He was just, and then we were hanging out with McCoy Tyner one time, and I said, McCoy, can I ask you about John? Are you cool with that? He goes, oh, no, yeah, it's kind of. I said, it's hard to tell on a record that guys are playing hard or not, because you could turn up a Paul Desmond loud, and all of a sudden he's louder than the band. I said, when you guys played, was John really like pumping in that? Because it seems like he was. And McCoy's real laid back. He was real laid back, real nice too. And he said, no, John could, what did he say? John could get it going. I don't know what that means. So what do you mean? Because we were playing at Pittsburgh. I think it was Pittsburgh. And John would play, and we would perspire. I never McCoy was talking like that. He would perspire. Like if you had McCoy's voice and you put it on a staff, it was all like within a minor third. You know what I mean? Like some people jump all over, but McCoy's like, and John, he just played. He was playing really hard, and John would perspire, and so he was wet, and his shirt was wet, and then he was really going after it, and blood was coming out of his nose. He broke a blood vessel, and he just kept playing, and it started to get on his shirt, and people were looking at him because their eyes are like this because he's playing, and there's blood going down his face, but he's all wet from perspiration. And so they finished the tune, and he said, I went up to John and said, John, you can't blow like that. I think you broke a blood vessel in your nose. And he said, John was like, oh, whoa, oh my gosh, oh wow, oh, So, yeah, I guess he was loud, right? So I was like, wow, really? He goes, yeah. And he goes, and Elvin go after it too, And I was like, holy smokes. So it was like it's not just the right notes or what pentatonic am I using. They're to play like this is the last time you're ever going to play was the way they played all the time. And the teaching is like the same way. So that commitment thing, I started to really see it because I started looking for it. And there's a lot of great players who play great. And not that everything has to be so intense. You can still play and have fun. But even in having fun, you're going to really have fun. Or you're going to even if you're going to goof around, you're going to really goof around. But it's do it or don't kind of thing. It was, and not everything has to be at that intense level, but the commitment to doing it right was there. I don't know. Am I making any sense?
No, you're making so much sense, and I want to relate a story too. So I was studying with Vince Panzarella on trumpet, and he always said, you knew Vince?
No, but it was Vince who said when because he was principal in the Philharmonic, right? For a while, was he principal?
He was in Baltimore, yes, but in New York he was second with Phil Smith being principal.
Oh, okay, all right, because I think it was it Panzarella? Who did Winton study with?
Who did? I'm sorry.
Winton.
He may have taken a lesson with Vince, but I don't.
The story was, I think, one time. No, Vacchiano. I have the wrong. The Vacchiano. All right. So go ahead. No, it's Go ahead.
Yeah, that whole series of people, Ivacchiano, you had Mel
Woo!
Broyles, but Vince Penzarello. But Vince would always say to me, he would say, like, listen to the classical singers. And he would mention Jussi Björling, right? Mario Lanza,
Yeah.
all those people. But he said every note, I don't care if it's a long tone or a scale, every note should be the most beautiful note you've ever played. And as soon as you're saying this story here, I'm like, holy crap, this, it reminded me of Vince. I always, I remember that from Vince, but I'm thinking to myself, wow, so this intent, this intention, this commitment was something that was inherent in the players in that time. Do you feel that are there people today that you feel like have that commitment, that intent? Do you still see that out there to the same degree?
Yeah, not, I'm teaching so much that I'm kind of looking in the other direction, how I can get people started. I mean, that's been like my life for the last 20 years. But yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot of like the new people. I mean, I hear a lot of great playing. I hear a lot of, Mulligan had a good quote. He says, I hear a lot of accomplishment, but I don't hear a lot of joy all the time, like a joyous thing. But for me, I mean, Mike was certainly that way. Mike Brecker, Chris Potter,
Yeah.
Randy Brecker's another.
Yeah.
I was just hanging out with Randy a little while ago. We were talking about some things, but yeah. I mean, there are people that are, but I really think that it was that era, because I think the big band era really brought up the time where people had like big sounds, like big sounds where you can't, like you couldn't. Well, I mean, I heard Doc Simerson, I heard Maynard, Buddy Childers. I mean, a lot of those guys, Conrad Gazzo. I talked a lot with Bobby Shue. Like when you hear somebody play, you hear Jerry Bergonzi plays, filling the horn up. Yeah, boom. And I do hear it. I do hear it from some people. I mean, just because I've been teaching so long, and this isn't fair to say, but you can almost tell. I believe that there's going to be a time when you're going to play a lot of what you're working on before you become who you are. And what just comes out is what comes out, because you have to put the craft together. And if you're lucky enough to be recorded, sometimes you could tell. A friend of mine plays over at Temple, and I think was it Dick Oates? Dick Oates was conducting a band, and he said, when you're solo, stop practicing.
Wow.
Stop playing what you're working on. Play something that you feel, which is kind of what you used to hear all the time before the music became so taught. All these guys played was what they felt. I remember one time there was a tenor player taking a solo. I used to stand on the side of the band, and Maynard walked over. The tenor player was playing really, he sounded good, really good. Maynard came over to me. He goes, "What's going on with the tenor players today?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Tenor players, what's going on?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "They all kind of the same." Oh, I said, "Well, I think what you're hearing is they're all kind of chasing Michael Brecker. He's such an influence." And Maynard says, I never forget this. And he went, "Why don't they leave that poor kid alone?" That's what he said. And I said, "Oh." And he goes, "Yeah, when we were coming up, we wanted to sound like ourselves. Why sound like somebody else?" He goes, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, I mean, I guess it's just like the big influence. The tenor players that were affected by Coltrane, the Coltrane and Sonny, they're all like carving out their own things. And it's just, it isn't, you love somebody so much, it's kind of hard to not be influenced. But he came from an era where everybody sounded like themselves, and that was like a different time, so that's also something that is kind of, it's just interesting to be around that and hear it, because they all had something different. And we were sitting in front of the bus and said, "Man, the boss, sound Bunny Berrigan," and he would imitate Bunny Berrigan. "Do Miles," and he would get his harmony that Dizzy gave him, and he'd do like imitate Miles, and his sound changed, and it got real small. They were all Maynard's ideas, but Bobby Hackett. He goes, "Oh, Bobby Hackett," and he would play like Bobby Hackett. We would name people, he would imitate them, and that's how they learned. They couldn't tell you about Locrian. One time somebody said to me, "It's Locrian, G. Locrian." He goes, "Isn't Locrian a cheese?" I said, hey, Locatella. And I was like, no, this is almost a cheat. But if you played the chord, they know exactly what to play on it because they didn't have to name things. We do that in teaching it. And so I think that's one of the reasons why, like when I teach somebody, I get them on the, that app, that iReal Pro app,
Yeah.
right? We get a tune, say you're going to learn all of me. Okay, that's your tune. You bring it back next week. We put it on 30 choruses. I said, pick a tempo, 120. Good. Bring it down to 90. Well, I can play it faster. I said, yeah, but you can't look ahead and see what's coming up faster. You want to be able to see what's coming up so you can connect over the bar line. You don't want to play this chord, then this chord. You want to be able to play through. And unless you can see ahead, like you have high beams, unless you can see real far ahead, it's going to be right up on you, and you're going to be like reacting to the chord as opposed to responding. You know how you want to respond. So we slow it down and we'll play it for 30 choruses. Just play off 1, 3, 5. When we do a couple courses, we do 4s. We play together. Play a guide tone line. You back me up and I back you up, and then out play. I play. Stop. You go, and they'll go like that. That like they'll copy you a little bit. You know, a lot of the lessons are just put this app on. It's a glorified metronome, but it's good. But it's and we'll just trade back and forth and come up with different ways to drill. I even wrote it down, different ways to drill on iReal Pro, so you're not bored, because you can't play 30 courses without changing it up once in a while. You'll bore you, then you'll hate it, then you won't do it. But if you do the melody, then you jazz up the melody, and then you think chords, then you think guide tones, and you think maybe extensions for 2 courses. Then you always make sure you solo and don't think of anything. Just do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Don't plan anything, because that's the real state right there. That's it. And if you don't practice trying to be in that state, you'll always be plugging and stuff. But anyway, so I'm still figuring it out. I came up with 3 new things this year that I've never done, because the culture's changing so much. I'm trying to keep them all in the game. So as long as I've been doing it, every 7 years I used to change how I taught. Then it went to every 5 years. Then it became every 2 years, and now post-COVID, it's just constantly, and it's fluid. Everything I may change tomorrow if I think it's going to work.
Wow. When you're saying, I'm curious, I want to dive back to, you found like 3 new things this year, that seem to be resonating. Would you mind sharing that?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, one thing is this iReal Pro app. It's just because I used to comp while they played on piano. And, comping for an hour, they just can get old, and they don't. If they hear something, they'll respond. So this app stopped me from having to comp so much. And then Jimmy Heath, Jimmy Heath.
I was at Queens College. He started the master's program in jazz there when I was there. I was in bachelor's, but yeah. He was great.
So Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy's an energy, and he was talking. I could listen to him talk all day. So in some interview, he was doing some interview somewhere. And he's like, because he's a Philly guy, he and Percy, and I did, he was funny. He said, it's not surprising that John played the way he did. He goes, it's almost as if anybody could play the way John did, but all you have to do is practice 11 hours a day. You can't hear Jimmy say something like that. You practice 11 hours a day like Coltrane plays? Well, there you go. Sonny's the same way, you know what I mean? How he would say things like that, So that idea of like just soaking yourself in something. And then Joe LaBarbera, great drummer, he used to play with Bill Evans. I'm going to come around to your thing. But he said they were finished the gig at night. The place closed out. The guy was locking up the club. And then as he was closing it up, Joe was talking to somebody. Bill Evans got up on the piano and was just playing the middle part, like a bridge to a tune over and over again. While they're talking, they're hanging. And anyway, Joe leaves. Guy locks the club up. The next day, Joe has to get something out of his trap case. So he calls the club owner. He goes, well, it's like 10 o'clock. Can I get in there? I have to get something out of my trap case. Guy opens up the door and has to meet him there. Guy comes with the key, opens it up. Bill's asleep under the piano.
Wow.
He stayed there all night. Who knows how long he was playing. And he kind of heard people get in there. Guy put coffee on the club owner. Joe's, Bill, what are you doing? He goes, oh, yeah, I fell asleep here. And so Joe goes, and Bill gets up on the piano again. He's going through the same section. All he's doing is playing the bridge 8 bars over and over and over again. Bill's like, were you doing this all night? Did you stay here overnight? He goes, yeah, I'm just trying to get to the essence of what I mean when I play this bridge.
Wow.
So it's not more. It's the other thing. He's trimming it. Whereas somebody like Oscar would play a lot of notes. Bill would go work. I don't need that. I don't need this. He's trimming it. He's trimming it. Every time he goes, he's trying to get less and less to where he was. That's that intent we're talking about. It's just not a high E screaming. This is a whole different kind of thing. So, and Joe's like, holy smokes. And so there's a way of like marinating in a tune. Somebody called it tune soaking. So that's the first thing that I changed is all my students, I get the app, I pull it up, I have the Bluetooth speaker. In fact, I have this kind of thing because it's nice, one of these Bose deals, right? Yeah. They're real nice. They're real nice. You can fill up the room with that. And we'll put the tune on 30 times. Whatever the tempo is they think they want to play it at, it's always slower. So we can look ahead and see it coming. And we'll just play it. In fact, if you want, I can even send you like all this stuff because I write it all out because I give it iReal Pro learning tips. Boom. I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. And this way, you have it. And this is what I give, it's funny because I do a lot of this stuff. Okay, I should do it. I should do it on. I should do it through email. You know what? Give me your phone number, Don. I don't have it.
You know what? Let me give it to you afterwards.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, yeah, right. Sorry. Anyway, so this idea of playing the tune for a real long time and doing different things every couple of courses to keep it is like what Monk would do. Somebody told me that Monk would play a tune for 3 hours because you get a relationship going with the tune. First, you learn it. The more you play it, the more you see it long distance. You see it as a complete arc. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing is I want them to transcribe a solo and play it. And I used to want them to write it out. And it's harder for them to write out a solo that isn't already transcribed somewhere. So I actually, and also some of them can't do that to the point where they spend so much time writing it out, they don't play it. I opted to lose the writing part, not because it isn't important, but because I'd rather have them spend more time learning how to play along with. You know what I mean? Just because I'm just picking what I want to go deeper, And the other thing I did was some of the kids would transfer and they're going through other schools where they have to learn 25 tunes a year or 25 tunes a semester. The 25 tunes a semester, you're not going to remember them if you don't play. If you're going to learn like Lush Life and you don't play that thing like in 2 weeks, it's like you never learned it. So what I've done, I've narrowed it down. I've opted for depth and less amount. So they have to have 5 tunes together, which we'll pick. So if they're starting out, then maybe we're doing so what. But then the whole challenge of how to create on a mode and make it interesting. They think, oh, it's 2 chords, it's fine. So they know the first thing that goes wrong, they lose track of where the bridge comes in. Right? Because you get stuck in that sea of D minor, and then the E flat hits you, and I can almost bet that that's what's going to happen. But you can talk about how to create more and go deeper into. You can extract a pentatonic. You can get note groups. There's a million things you could do on that D minor. Let's experiment with that. Let's just get creating, get you going, because the more chords you have to memorize, the less you're creating. So I want them to get creative. I want them to like it so we can build off it. So I actually ask for less tunes than some places. If they learn 25 tunes, all they're going to be doing, Donna, is memorizing. Yeah. Nobody's deep. And then a year afterwards, you're going to forget it. But if they have 5 tunes and they're all strategically picked for where the student is, then that's one thing. The other thing is this tune soaking where you play a tune for 30 courses. I mean, you could do that with sax. You can't do it with trumpet. No. I mean, you're going to get killed. So there's other things that, that I don't have any trumpet students, but there's other, Alfonso Horn?
No.
Okay. He's from New York. He's teaching for us now. And, that's everybody figures out their method. So 5 tunes instead of 25, playing on the tune, and we go back and forth. We do fours a lot. We'll do things. They'll play a lot of notes, and I'll come in with a Lester Young, like boo 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 doo, boo boo boo, and it's like, oh, it's okay to do that. Every time I play something when we do fours, it's telling them it's okay to play like that, which is what they don't do when they don't hear something. Not with that when I'm playing is great. There's no Grammys coming to my front door from when I'm playing. But if they hear me play something, they can react to it, which is something they wouldn't have done if they didn't hear it. So it's getting them to hear. So I play with them. We do it like 30 choruses. And I do I'd rather do 5 tunes and go really, really deep with them and talk about different techniques and get involved in it and have them listen to it, maybe find 5 versions of the tune, those things. And what was the other one?
So the iReal Pro, and then the tune soaking.
Yeah, with iReal Pro, and I swap. Well, I swap back and forth with the iReal Pro. Yeah. So to do that is really pretty good. And I even have, like, I have the horn. I have the horn here that has like the peg on the bottom. There's like a little thing you could screw a peg in, so I could just sit and play, because 30 choruses could be 25 minutes, depending on the tune. And I don't want to have it. I don't want to have it like around my neck for that long. But it's interesting. Yeah. So that's like new stuff, and that seems to be working, and hopefully it will. And you're just watching to see how they do it, But I want them to leave each lesson feeling like they know how to get themselves moving, because a lot of it is, it's also teaching them how to practice by themselves, because they're not going to get together and jam for as long as they need to play that too. But this iReal Pro is you can learn how to work it. You know what I mean? So you could learn, and you can come up with interesting, different ways to keep yourself from getting bored.
Do you find, and thank you for sharing that, because that's great advice there for players and teachers especially. Do you find, are a lot of the kids coming in, they're into different styles of music, different cultures, all that kind of thing. Do you ever, this is an interesting question, do you ever address more modern types of tunes, or are you sticking with the standards that you want them to learn?
I don't really care, really. It's interesting, because the standard thing that we're talking about, it's already almost gone in terms of, like, I know if I go somewhere, if I go to Anchorage or Cincinnati or Tokyo, and you're going to sit in with the jazz, but you kind of know like the standard things that they might play. But more and more, everybody's playing their own tunes for the most part. You see a lot of original music, and that's fine. But I'm thinking for them to learn how to improvise. I went through this with, like, should I do tunes that are more common? But there isn't any center anymore. There isn't, like, when Coltrane, I remember when John was alive, I mean, I was just starting to understand who he was, and then he passed away. But everybody followed him. Everybody followed Charlie Parker, and everybody followed John. Then when John died, everybody was like all over the place. You had, Sonny was over here, Chick Corea was over here, Herbie was over here, Miles, and it kind of blew up like the end of a tree. All the branches went out, and there wasn't any like one person to follow. So for me, there is no group of tunes that everybody knows. You know what I mean? Like, there isn't, these kids don't follow a beacon anymore, but they like to improvise. So for me, I am using these tunes, maybe because I know how to teach improvisation with them. And if they ever do get together, they can play together. But yeah, we do some modern tunes. There's some good Roy Hargrove stuff that's out there. That the students like. If they come to me with a tune that they like, absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing. What's that Roy Hargrove tune? Kid came in. So what tune are you going to do?
Strasbourg Saint Denis.
Yeah, there it is. And it was. I said, do it, bring it in, find it, because if they like it, then to me that's their way in. Man, I'm not going to say no. You have to do Green Dolphin. Yeah, no, because it's my thing is I'm trying to. I don't want to say I'm in sales, but I am trying to get them to love it. And if they can have a vested interest in something, if they can have something that is of them in it, like, I like this tune, we'll play it. Okay, I want to play it now. Well, that I want to thing is more valuable than anything I could give them. You know what I mean? Either learn the pentatonic that I'm forcing you to learn, or get that tune that you really love and learn the melody. It's a no-brainer, because the information that they need to know, the basic stuff, we all have that. We all know that. But to get them motivated, especially now, especially this post-COVID, the culture, that everybody's sensitive, that whole thing, it's to get them to love it is the goal. After that, I have all these, there's a million ways to go with it, but to get them to really want to do it is, that's everything in teaching. That's why teaching in a way is harder than playing, because, hey, I could go play and love it. I don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. Or I could sit and write a chart, which I love doing that too, and talk to even less people than who I'd be playing with. But teaching throws you like right into humanity. It just throws you in the deep end of the pool, and you can either figure it out. And I do have some friends who teach, like, this is what I do, this is it, you have to do this, and this is it.
Yeah.
And it might work or it might not. But I have other friends that they're working at it. And you have your radar up and you're checking out what's the best way. And sometimes they need you to put your arm around them. Other times they need you to be rough with them. It's never the same. And usually by the end of the day, if you teach 8 kids, you're exhausted because you're flipping around, and if that's the way you want to teach. But I had a friend who retired who, like, here's a syllabi, everybody gets it. It's easy to teach. Well, that's fine if you're not looking at getting them motivated. But if you're looking at getting them to want to love it, you're looking deeper into them, because they're all different. Some people, they come ready to go. They come to ready. They love it. It's like, great, let's go. And then other people, they kind of like it. They're not sure. Some people, there's 3 kinds. This is what I've seen, basically 3 kinds of people that wind up going to school after high school. The ones that absolutely love whatever it is you have to teach. The ones that they're not sure what they want to do with their life, but band was fun. And I had buddies, and we went to Myrtle Beach, and we went to Disney, and we went to Williamsburg, and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to be a music major. And sometimes they wash out, because now we're not going to Disney. We're not going to go see Tigger. We're here, and we're here, and you got to do it or not. And sometimes they quit, and sometimes they say, okay, I think I really like it. And the third kind that I've seen, and this is sad, but I've seen it, are kids that they don't have like a center. They don't have like a home or people. Like, maybe they have a rough home. Maybe they came from a tough situation, and band was their family. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then now school's over. High school timed out. So they just pick music because you have a built-in family. But after a while, that can't sustain itself, and that's sad. You can see that like right away, and maybe they're not cut out for school, but this thing we do, if you're actually in the performing end of it, it's social, and it's great. It's great. It's social for the kids who really want it. It's great. And for the kids who switch over to it, it's great. For the kids who are lost and looking for a home, it's almost essential, but it's not really what they should be doing. So that's what you see. So the kids who come in wanting what you're teaching, bang, it's off the door opens up and we're racing around the track, and that's what I've seen. And it's all, and you're in a position, no matter which one of those are, you're in a position to be kind to these people, or, you want to play, you got to do this at 2-5-1 on all keys, and don't talk to me about it. You could teach that way or not, but we're in a position of just teaching where you can be so influential. You can really, if you kind of, you could really create a lot of damage if you're not careful how you treat some of these, guys. So, I've had a student who committed suicide, who came to study with me. And my wife said, there's post Denny and pre, and there's post Denny and there's pre Denny after this happened, because it made me just realize that this is really, we are so lucky. Like what Dave Baker said, you're blessed to be able to have this, because what you can do with it is you can touch a lot. And I guess you can do the same thing in math, but we're so far ahead with connecting with people than a lot of other areas. as a teacher, you could do a whole other thing, which made me realize that thing about these great teachers like David Baker and these guys who were for real with their teaching. They knew that they had that thing. And they, when they taught, here's the information, do it. I'm here for you. But if you're not interested, that's fine too. We're fine. We'll get a beer. That's fine. I'm not going to get back at you. It's fine.
Yeah, everything that you're sharing here, it's a mark. It's a mark of a great teacher, and there's a lot of things that are going on here too, because society's changed so much. When I was going to school, like, and you were going to school, like, whatever the teacher said, you did it. You didn't question it, and if
well, especially if you have Jimmy Heath, could have said, buckle up.
Especially being in the big band, those trumpet parts, holy crap. But anyway, those were hard. But even just like, high school, elementary, all that kind of thing, like back then, you never spoke back to the teacher or anything like that. Totally different world now. It's a totally different world now. It's more student-centered as opposed to teacher-centered, and we were talking before we went, we started to hit record here. And I was saying that, teaching is, you said teaching's like adapting. I said, yeah, like improvisation. And that's why I think really good improvisers, I can't say everybody's going to be a great teacher, but if you're a really good improviser, you know how to adapt. And if you could adapt to your students and all the different ways that students learn, and it's just everybody's so individualistic now, and adapting to that, it's not easy. Teaching it's exhausting. It's a full-time job, and it's not that those who can't teach. No, to teach now, you really have to be a great teacher, a great player, everything.
Well, you have to want it, and I think in the beginning I tolerated it, and after talking, and that thing with Dave made me really realize how lucky I was to do it. And then that did turn me around with just get over yourself. And what are you even doing? Grow up, and, but you're right. And it's definitely like it is another, it can really be tiring. And then you see some of these, some of them come in and you're in the position of, oof. You're always adjusting, and you can have somebody who all of a sudden they're telling you like all this heavy stuff. If you're taught, especially the one-on-one thing, you develop another relationship with the one-on-one students that's different than the band. And I do the band also, the big band, but I got to. I know. Well, I can keep talking. You tell me whatever you want to do, but. I wanted to tell you something that was kind of cool. But go ahead. You have a question about anything?
Well,
about
actually,
something?
yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to. I wanted, because the other thing that people may not know about you is that you scat sing, and I was watching one of the videos with Maynard, and oh crap, now I just
was that outdoors?
Yeah, it was outdoors. You were
that's Japan. That's Japan in the summertime. It was like 100 degrees out there. Yeah, it was just salt peanuts. Yeah, that was Japan.
That was it. That was it. And you played this blazing solo, and then you did this scat, and it was like, holy cow, that was so awesome.
Yeah. That was just learning from. I used to hear Clark Terry and John Hendricks and Ella, and to me that was a fun thing. And I used to scat in the band and in a like in a car with a friend of mine who played George Rabbi, great trumpet player who played. He studied with Vince, and but he was. We would just scat together, and one time on Maynard's band, I did it, and then he says, "Hey, leave it in." And I was like, "All right, I was just goofing around," and then it became that. It's just fun. And then Jamey Aebersold, one time I scatted at one of the camps. He says, "You want to teach scats vocal?" I said, "Jamey, I don't know what I'm doing. All I'm doing is imitating when I play. I'm not a singer. I'm a ham and egger. I don't. You don't want me doing that." He goes, "No, well, that's what they need to hear." And I'm like, "Oh, all right." And so I teach jazz scat singing for a couple of years, and I even wrote a little book about, you have to listen, and that's when there are a couple things that when they're not done right can really be rough to hear, and when scatting isn't right, whew, it can really be Yeah, we would trade ba ba doo dee ba 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 boo beep waka 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 woo woo wah. I said, whoa, wait a minute, what instrument makes woo woo wah waka waka? You're imitating an instrument. Oh, it was really, I didn't know what I was doing, but talk about adapting. But I kept doing it. I figured out a lot of it was we're going to spend a half an hour back and forth, just back and forth, so that you can hear the right syllables. And because when you have to teach something, you have to analyze. And if you don't have to teach it. You just keep going. Like they always wanted a high note book from Maynard. And he kept like, that's fine, that's fine. Then I asked him, I said, boss, you want to do this book? Because they're bothering me to sit here and do it with you. And he goes, I said, let me ask you, do you know how you do it? You know how you play the high notes? And he goes, well, I said, how did you start doing the high notes? And he goes, well, I like melodies and I would just bring them up on minor third. And I thought the minor third sounded so nice. And before I knew it, I was up there. I was like, you got to be kidding. So there's no corners, air, upstream, downstream, left stream, field and stream. There's none of that. It's just take melodies up a minor third. He goes, yeah, the minor third, there's something nice about it. I was like, holy smokes. Nobody would have picked that out. I said, there's no book. There's your book. There's no book. But I think that, like the scat singing thing, I didn't know what I was doing with that. And it was fun. It's still fun when it's right and the microphone's right. And, yeah, I haven't done that in a while. Yeah, that was, yeah. All right, yeah, that's where that was, scat singing. But there are people who can really, like Darman meter, and there's some people who can scat through changes. That's, when you scat on blues or I got rhythm, you're kind of scatting over whole tonality. But some of these people, they could eat up the changes. Like you hear them scatting on giant steps and stuff like that. That's some surgical scat singing.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I had Alexa Tarantino, who's a great saxophonist. She scats in solfege.
Oh, there you
Do
go.
you know how hard that is? And
Big
I
stuff.
was she fixed out? Now I'm trying to remember. I think it was, you know what? I don't remember, but I had her on the podcast, and she's got some YouTube videos out, and I think one was with her and Chad LB or something like that, and she's just
Oh,
scatting a solo. You know which one I'm
I've
talking
seen
about?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's because of the way
A
she was
lot of
brought up.
chat.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Well, that's how you got to start that early.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah.
That's not easy, that stuff. But I'm gonna change topics a little bit and get
Yeah.
into because a lot of people are more people are playing Barry sax now than ever before.
Oh
So
yeah.
people will want to know. I know you're endorsed by Yamaha and stuff,
Can't
and
Barrys. Can't have enough Barrys.
there you go. Every Barry player will say that for sure.
Yeah.
But you've been endorsed by Yamaha, so are you playing the same horn, for many, many years, or have you
Well,
gotten new
the
models?
same brand. No, I wore a couple of them out, and well, it's okay. You'll like this one. This is the story I wanted to tell you. So I'm in I'm in undergrad school, and Manny Album was a great arranger, composer, New York guy back in the '60s and '70s. He came down and he taught for us. He was rehearsing the band. I'm playing tenor, so we're rehearsing the band, and we take a break for lunch. I think we were going to go on a trip or something. So I put the tenor down, and the fellow who played Barry just left it on his chair. And as I walked by, I just grabbed the Barry, put it on the chair, and just went ba da da 5 notes. And as soon as I did it, man, he looked at me and says, "You're a Barry player." And I said, "No, I never played Barry. Do I have a tenor player?" And he just pointed at the Barry. So he did. Anyway, for the rest of my time in undergrad, I'm playing tenor. Then I go to Miami. I go to grad school. I'm just playing tenor. I'm my tenor. And then I get the gig with Maynard on Barry. They needed a Barry. I had to find a Barry. I bought the Barry. I had like 8 days to buy the Barry, pack my stuff up, move back home to Philly, get out of Miami, get ready, go out with the Barry. And now I'm playing in Maynard's band. First rehearsal, he plays at high E. Boom, now I have this Barry. Barry happened to be Yamaha. And it was one of the first models. And it was kind of like the welds on them weren't that good. I mean, I needed a horn. It could have been any horn, Donna, but it just happened to be Yamaha. So I'm playing this horn. I'm playing the Barry. And then we played Disneyland in Anaheim during the NAMM show. And I'm walking around the NAMM show, and there's the Yamaha booth. I said, "Look, I'm playing this. I'm with Maynard. My hair was out like this. That big beard looked like a Viking. I wasn't gray yet, and I still had hair, and I had a Mickey Mouse shirt on. I mean, I just looked like, we were on the road with a bunch of guys. Your IQ, the combined IQ of the whole bus with a bunch of guys is like in single digits, we're just acting up. So I go to the Yamaha booth and they say, look, I'm with Maynard. I'm playing Yamaha. The guy looks at me. He goes, really? He goes, send me an itinerary. I said, all right. So I call the office and send this guy the itinerary. What do I know? Now I show up to a gig. Like maybe a month and a half later, there's some guy there. This guy, John Mills, he was in charge of Denver, like that whole swath of that part of the country, north to south. And he has a Barry. He goes, I'm going to take that Barry. I'm going to give you this. I said, well, who are you? Who are you? And he goes, I work with Yamaha. I said, Yamaha? I said, what's going on? He goes, well, we want you to play this horn. They made improvements on it. And I was like, whoa. I said, so am I a Yamaha guy? Is it how you guys operate? I mean, nobody called, nobody wrote. I don't know anything. So I played the horn. It was a lot better. Oh, it was sturdier. It was better. And I was like, wow, this thing really feels good. And he took the horn that I had. So now I'm playing this Yamaha because they wanted to make sure you were doing something that was getting exposure, not just some guy who walked in looking like I look. So anyway, now I'm playing Barry. So I'm always waiting for the tenor player to leave, right? And I always like tenor players had big dark sound, like Sonny Rollins, Dexter. I like that dark bottom part. Anyway, the tenor player leaves, and I go to Maynard. I said, boss, would you mind if I try out for the tenor chair? Because I'm thinking I'm a tenor player. And Maynard says, well, I like the way you play tenor. So if you had radar, you knew that means no. Not everybody had radar. But when he goes, well, yeah, I means no. You could tell, because otherwise he would say, yeah, sure. But he says, I said, no, well, I don't want to push, boss, but what? I should call him bosses. What? What do you, I mean, and he goes, well, it's nice to have a Barry player playing Barry. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I like the way you play tenor because we would pick up each other's instruments. He goes, I like it, but it's nice to have somebody play Barry who's a Barry player. And I was like, what the? All right. I just left it alone. I'm thinking, that's the second time I heard this now. And I'm thinking, what is this thing? And then I made tapes of Ronnie Cuber, Nick Vignola, Bruce Johnstone, and Pepper Adams. Well, that's all I listen to. And if you notice these guys, when they play, they create a lot on the bottom of the horn. Because that's the money part of the horn. You can add the high notes. We do that too. But there's a lot. You don't create on the bottom of the horn when you play alto a lot.
That's right.
Sonny Rollins would create a lot on the tenor kind of down there. But for baritone, you can live that Pepper Adams exploded from the bottom. Nick Vignola would play an extended solo on the bottom octave. And it was like, whoa, it was a great sound. So I'm listening to this stuff and I'm thinking, okay, well, I like the sound of it. All right, fine. So I asked Maynard one time, I said, boss, this thing, me playing baritone. He goes, yeah. I said, you think I'm a Barry player? And he goes, well, I hear you when you play Barry. When you play tenor, I kind of hear who you listen to. And I was like, okay, I can kind of get that. And he goes, yeah, the instrument, here you go. The instrument that fits your personality has nothing to do with what you want. And it has nothing to do with what you pick. He goes, you could play an instrument that's not your personality and you could play it great. You could play it really, really great. And he goes, some people who play an instrument great and it's not their personality are on this band. That's all he said. And I was like, whoa. I said, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, because he's had Pepper Adams in the band. He had Ronnie Cuber. He's had Frank Hittner, these great Barry players. So now I get off the band. I have the tenor, I have the soprano. In fact, there they are, tenor. And I go do a gig. I bring my alto. After 2 tunes, I was like, this ain't me. This is not me. I'm missing the bottom part. I brought the tenor one time. I was thinking, this isn't it either. I brought the Barry. I was like, you know what? I'm at home. I'm at home with this instrument. This feels right. Okay, I see what they're talking about. So now I'm doing paperwork on a student who's ready to graduate. He went through 4 years, alto sax player, did all this stuff, and I'm doing some paperwork. And he comes in and he says, I have the soprano. You mind if I play it while you're doing your work? I said, yeah, play it. Go ahead. So I'm doing that, puts a horn together. As soon as he blows in it, I just looked at him. I went, whoa, you're a soprano player.
Oh, that's funny.
You're a soprano player. And he goes, what do you mean I play alto? I said, no, I hear you sound like a whole different person. You play 2 notes and that instrument is you. And then I was like, holy cow. It took 30 years for that story to meet.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And Maynard said the same thing about the flute. He goes, flute is you too. But he said, but you could play them all. Because, play sax. Like, you could play flugel. You could play trumpet. You know what I mean? But there's something with, when you're talking about your personality coming through, it just does or it kind of doesn't. And that's funny. Maynard says, no, you don't. It's like when you go looking for puppies and one runs up to you. That's how it is. He goes, you might play the right instrument, but, it's not like you're going to sound bad. It's just your personality will pop through on the right instrument. And I thought, wow, how's that? How's that? So the bari, now that I can play whatever I want, believe me, my life would be a lot easier if I played a smaller horn. Because this thing is like, anybody will tell you, it's like, you're driving a Queen Mary through like doors. I can't tell you how many pieces. Every bari player has taken chunks out of doors. That's the other thing we all have in common. There are gouges on doors that have Gary Simoleon's name on it.
No, it's hard because I don't play bari because it's probably bigger than me, but and the case is too heavy for me to lift. I'm not that tall, but like I watch you and you don't even use like a harness. You use a regular instrument. Oh, no, good.
Now I do. Now I do. In fact, there's all kinds of I have a ton of them all over the place, but they're you have to. These instruments are not made to make you healthy.
Yeah.
If your posture right and your hearing right and your nerves, your nerves come down from the neck, you could really get. Yeah. No, I have harnesses they're all over the place. I have every harness made, and I know just the right ones that work for me. So when I play with my students for 30 courses, I don't wear a neck strap. That's old. That what you were looking at there, and I don't. If I'm going to take a solo and I can get it off my neck, I'll wear it. I have a cushion. It's called a Sabella strap, made by a guy who's a chiropractor, and it really it spreads out the weight. It helps. So, but if I'm going to play for any length of time, what I'm playing on? If I'm going to sit here and practice, put it on the yoga block so I could sit and play it.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay,
I wore it out.
Yeah, no, I see that. So let me ask you a question because it got cut off a little bit. You said a Sabella strap, cushion Sabella strap.
Yeah, it's a. I'll show you. This is,
and I'll put this in the show notes, everybody.
It's CEBBELA, I think.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. Okay, got it. Okay,
and it's got the hook and all that business on it.
Okay,
but the idea is you put it this way behind, but check this out. See that?
Yeah.
Okay, that little. It gets the weight off your nerve, and it kind of puts it on the muscles on the side. I mean, when you use it, it definitely is. You feel it. Your horn feels like it's about a third lighter. I don't know I don't know the physics of it, and but it's about $70, $80, but it's great. So when I do it, I use this because it's already good. But some of the harnesses press on your chest, so when you inhale, you have to push out against this resistance that's coming back, and that bothers some people. Other people have a harness where it stays right in the middle. That when you play in the sax section, it's got to come over here.
Yeah.
It's got to move. Yeah. So, but this is a CEBELLA.
Got it.
Yeah.
But that's cool though. With all this stuff. But let me ask you this question before we go. Do you have any projects coming up for the end of 2024 or 2025 that are coming up for you?
Well, my projects now are things like organizing. Like what I have coming up, we're gonna have a concert with Dennis McCrell, drummer. Okay. He took over from Mel Lewis from the Vanguard when he left. He was Basie's last drummer. We'll be doing a concert. I'm always writing charts for publishers. I have an idea when I can do it. I have an idea. There's a great piano player, Jim Riddle, and a friend of mine that plays cajon, and I'm putting together this group, and I just when I want to try something, I just book it on the gig. I just book it. So Somebody wanted me to do a concert, like hour and a half concert. So I said, all right. So I had this friend who plays great cajon, and another guy who plays great piano, and a trio. But the sound of the cajon is such that everybody can be busy and you can hear everybody clearly. It's not like not like you had bongos in a cajon and they can blend each other out. You know what I mean? It would be like having a trombone and an oboe. You can always hear each other because the sounds are so different. And there's like a precedent for that kind of thing. But I'm trying to do at the school. I'm going to do this thing where I have a friend who's going to read poetry. We're going to improvise behind him.
Oh, how cool.
With it, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I've done so many. Here's a tune. We're going to do a bunch of tunes. We'll do here's a tribute to Sam Rivers, tribute to Duke, a tribute to this guy, tribute to Benny Golson. Every now and then at school, what's nice is you could do your own recital, and it could be anything you want, and you're working with people that could be, So I have this friend who's just so great when he reads poetry. You look at him and you're thinking, oh my God, listen, he's going over the top, and we back him up. Break out my bass flute, and we just we create some things, and it's just kind of fun. I did a recording live in a bookstore here. It's called Live at Words Matter. Was just a guitar duo, a former student of mine. We played duo and we recorded it, and it was live, and it's up on Apple Music now. And I'll do projects and throw them up on Apple Music, but the whole streaming thing, how nuts that is.
Yeah.
I mean, no put an addition on their house with the get from that stuff, but but nothing big like that. I have some concerts I'm going to go out and do. North Carolina, playing a couple things. Somebody wanted me to. What are we doing? I have a couple of things, but nothing that's real. Anymore, if you do a recording project and you just put it up, and the only noise that comes from it is the noise you create from it. It's not like it was before. And schools really got me kind of busy in terms of that. I did about 15 different albums at one point, all CDs, and now you can't. You know the story with that. You've heard it. Everybody trying to get rid of CDs, but I've been doing this. A couple of people interview. Monk Rowe.
No, I don't.
Bro, he's interviewed a lot of great people back from Lionel Hampton on up. Brett Premack, Brett.
I've heard the name.
He interviewed like Sonny Rollins a lot, and I've been doing like interviews and things like that. But no, not a real project like. I have a recital coming up where we're going to be playing behind not next week, a week from this Tuesday. I'm going to play behind this poet with a cajon player. But I'm interested in October. We have this gig. I want to see if it works, because if it does, I have studio time banked with somebody, and I want to get in and record some things, because I think the instruments are unique, but the players are the right people. I just don't want a piano player. I want this particular guy who plays piano, this guy, Jim Riddle. He's just so intuitive. He's the kind of guy that if it feels good to not play, he won't. Mm-hmm. And you don't see that a lot. It's just, when you're playing with people like that who can improvise and they'll get out of the way to create another texture, they do it, and then you're in another texture. Then you can figure out how you want to come back into it. And there's a lot of magic that happens with certain people. So I like to just throw them together and make them comfortable and feel. And let's see how we do it. Let's just see, with like minimal. At least that's where I'm at now. I can write a chart where you have to write every single thing I write for wind ensemble. That's fine. But when it comes to improvising, it's still unstructured play for me.
Awesome. That's awesome, because that's so full circle. That really is. And it's also the other theme. You got the unstructured play, but also adapting and adjusting. Right? That's a theme.
Yeah. Well, look at what you're doing this. Don't you have to adapt to everybody you talk to? Some people are easy. Some people you have to drag it out of them. Some people are quiet, if they like you or not. I mean, you're always, your head's working 1,000 miles an hour, Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And, it's interesting, though. I find I think a majority of the people, most of the people that I talk to, that's why, I said to you from the very beginning, I like to have this like a conversation, so people are like a fly on the all. And because it's fun, it's interesting for me, and I think it's interesting for the audience and stuff. And people who were guarded, they're not anymore, which is cool.
Well, you make it loose, and that's what's great about it. You make it so it's comfortable just to do it. And so this has been fun. This is good. I'm thinking that, wow, did we go 2 hours? We've been going for 2 hours.
We have, but it's awesome. You shared so many awesome stories and just a lot of knowledge bombs. I mean, just from some of the stories and some of the things that you're doing. And I can't thank you enough. I mean, this is so valuable to me, but also to the listeners.
Well, I want to thank you, and I'm always figuring it out. I just went through a thing today where the school started. I had a student that didn't show up for rehearsal. All right. And I did a big thing about being on time and no unexcused absences. So student just didn't show up, didn't call me, nothing. So now they were looking at me now. Now I got to react. I have to do something I don't want to do. So I'm thinking, all right, I'll give it one more shot, and if you cancel him or you kick him out too soon, then you get upset, we get this whole thing. Then I remembered Wayne Shorter's story when Wayne was hitting the bottle a lot when he was in Miles. Miles didn't say anything to him. One night he shows up, Joe Henderson's on the gig. And Wayne's like, what's going on? Miles says, we're going to have 2 tenors. That's all he said. So all of a sudden, Joe Henderson's on the gig, and Wayne's like, all of a sudden he's gonna straighten up. He cleaned up, and I think he did 4 or 5 gigs with Joe, and then Miles sent Joe home, fixed everything. That's what I think I'm going to do with this guy. I'm going to have students come in and just sit right next to him and have him read the book with him. Don't say anything. I'm going to pull a Miles down.
That's awesome. That's brilliant. But listen, by the time that this airs, they're not going to know. Yeah. It's not going to be. I'm not going to be giving it up, so that's okay.
I think they're going to listen this long to get to this point.
This is great.
No, but it's funny because my job is to help them grow, and sometimes growing is not always comfortable. Most of the time, it's not. Growing is like pushing into what's resisting and keep pushing, figure out, keep going, and so you get through. And a lot of them, that's what they have to. My job is to help you grow, not be your best buddy. Now you can be pleasant, but the cool thing about that is I don't have to do anything.
That's right. That's awesome. Oh my God. Well, listen, Dennis, thank you so much.
Thank you.